rude and inappropriate. Or just like leave the restaurant, there will be a service fee. You would get complimentary foods. They will be happily surprised. Insist on showing you where to sit. Is it acceptable to share a plate? I'm deliberately not talking too loud, like big no-nos, okay? Istanbul and Turkey is massively famous for food. Now, Turkey is a big food country. It has one of the richest cuisines in the world. And one of the most frequently asked questions we get is, what is the restaurant etiquette in Turkey? So how do you order food? What is okay? What is not okay? What should you expect? Today in this video, we're covering all of these topics, starting with choosing your table. So when it comes to choosing a table, it's quite relaxed. Like, you can pretty much always choose where you want to sit. You don't need to wait to be seated in most places in Istanbul and Turkey. However, in some cases, they will insist on showing you where to sit. And in that case, just sit where they show you to sit. But if you don't like the place they show you to sit, you can always suggest the waiter to sit somewhere else. Like, you can always ask, is it okay if I sit on this table rather than the one you want me to sit? And in most cases, like 80-90% of the time, they're going to be okay with this, and they will say, sure, you can sit there. Or they will say, no, you cannot sit because that table is reserved. But they will not get offended. This is okay to ask this. And it is okay to choose where you want to sit in Turkey. So this is okay. So now that you're seated, the second thing you should know is how to call the waiter. Now, when you're calling the waiter, you should always politely raise your hand or do like this or like this and just wait. And one thing you can say is like, excuse me. We actually use the French word pardon in Turkish as well. And so the typical Turkish way to call a waiter would be bakar mısınız? So bakar mısınız would be translated as like, can you look? Like, can you come over and take a look, have a look? So if that's complicated to remember, you can also just say pardon, you know, because we use that, but never like this, okay? Because that would be rude. And also, when calling the waiter, it is rude to call loudly. Of course, you might need to raise your voice a little bit so they can hear you, but still do it in a polite fashion, so as not to be received as rude. Now, step 3. So you're seated. You call the waiter. Now you're going to order. So can you make substitutions? And the short answer is yes, absolutely. This is completely okay and acceptable. And so as long as you're not recreating the entire dish, let's say like a salad or maybe like a kebab plate, right? Kebab on a plate. You don't want onions or you don't want rice, or you want to substitute the bread with rice because you cannot eat gluten, right? In that case, it's completely and totally fine. It's acceptable. You don't need to have any reason to substitute. It's always okay to ask for substitutions as long as they don't need to recreate the dish for you. It's okay. And the next topic is sharing the plate. So now that the food has already arrived to your table, is it acceptable to share a plate? And answer is yes, it is totally acceptable. And you can see that we're already sharing a plate today. Hakan is shooting the video and I'm speaking. And here's the food which we're gonna share together after we finish the video in a few minutes. How about some things which you shouldn't do in a restaurant? Let's talk about that because this is important. One of the things you shouldn't do is to speak loudly. As you can see, since we're inside a restaurant and I'm making this video, I'm deliberately not talking too loud as not to be rude to the other people sitting in this restaurant and eating in this restaurant. Generally speaking, it's considered rude to speak louder than the average of the restaurant. And now we come to the other things which you shouldn't do in a restaurant, and these are like big no-nos. Okay, so one of the things which you should never do is to blow your nose. Now, blowing your nose is in a restaurant, like if you gently wipe your nose without producing any sound, is okay. But I'm talking like, like blowing your nose in a restaurant is considered very rude. In fact, in Turkey in general, blowing your nose loudly, in a fashion that it produces a sound in any public place will get you looks. It's like even in public transport or, just in a place with other people, like in a party or something. But especially in a restaurant, because while people are eating, hearing the sound of someone blowing their nose is considered very rude. So if you need to do that, just use the washroom and come back, or just like leave the restaurant and then come back. So that's good manners. But in general, it's not just about blowing your nose. It's like in general, like producing unpleasant sound in a dining atmosphere. So anything like even smacking your lips while eating is considered rude. For example, in some Asian cultures, this is a good sign. Like in some cultures, like for example in Japan, if you smack your lips while eating, this is a compliment to the chef, and they're like happy that you're making that slurping sound while eating noodles, right? But here in Turkey, the same act would be considered impolite and undesirable. So try avoiding producing any loud chewing or slurping sounds while eating or dining in Turkey. What about you couldn't finish your meal? Is it okay to ask for a doggy bag? And the short answer is yes, but the long answer is depends on the restaurant. Now the thing is, it is always okay to ask from the restaurant's perspective. So even if you go to like a very high-end expensive restaurant, it is still okay to ask, but it's just like we locals, we tend to not do that, especially if it's like a high-end, like a expensive restaurant. But you can still ask, and the restaurant isn't gonna judge you for doing that. Yeah. And so yeah, you could ask for it. Another thing you should know is that in Turkey, it is very common that you would get complimentary foods and drinks, especially if you're eating at a good restaurant. But even in, typical backstreet restaurants, like even in like really affordable restaurants, it is common to get some free complimentary meze or like tea, coffee even. So this is something you can ask. So, for example, when I go to a new restaurant, which I've never been before, and if they bring me something which I didn't order, I will always ask if it is complimentary, if it is on the house. Because in some cases, it might be on the table, like, for example, an unopened water bottle, and you might think it's on the house, but it's not. So the moment you open it, they will add it to the bill. So it's always good to ask these things. Like, for example, they bring you a small, appetizer or a salad or something. It's always good to ask if it's on the house. The word for this in Turkish is ikram. So ikram means complimentary. And the most common complimentary thing they will bring you is tea. So in a lot of places, after you finish your meal, they will ask if you want tea. And almost always it will be on the house. But in some places, they might charge you for it. So if you would like to make sure, just ask for it. And it's okay to ask if it's on the house or not. So, asking for the bill. This is international. I suppose in every country you have the same hand movement like this. Like you're writing the check in the air. So you can just do the same in Turkey. Everyone will understand. And the last thing you should know is service fee and tipping culture. Now for this, you can also check out our money guide video. In that video, we went into greater depth about money related topics and questions. However, when it comes to paying the bill in Turkey in a restaurant, in some places there will be a service fee and in some places there won't be a service fee. Generally speaking, two types of restaurants, either like high-end, good quality, like fine dining places, or in touristic places. But when you go, like you have like a kebab wrap on the street or something, they will typically not include a service fee. And if they do include a service fee, it's usually going to be 10%. That is visible on the bill. So before you pay, when you get the check, you can see at the bottom. Now, if that's not the case, then they will be expecting you to tip up to 10%. Okay. And here's a bonus: 3 most commonly used phrases in a restaurant. So the first one would be bakar mısınız? Bakar mısınız is a polite way of asking for the waiter. So that's like, can you have a look? Like bakar mısınız? It's like saying excuse me. The second one is hesap or hesap lütfen. Hesap means the bill and lütfen means please. So the bill please or just the bill is also okay. And the last one is teşekkürler, which means thank you or thanks, or kolay gelsin, which is even better because it's not a big surprise that you learned how to say thank you. But if you learn this phrase kolay gelsin, they will be happily surprised that you know this phrase, because this is a very Turkish phrase. It's not thank you, but it's used instead of thank you in a lot of cases. So this will be it for today's video. Everybody, I hope you liked today's video and I hope you found value in this video. If you like this video, also check out our money guide video and our food guide video for more useful tips, and like and subscribe and follow us for more useful tips when it comes to visiting Istanbul.